Hey there, it's David H. Lawrence the 17th, and today I want to talk to you about what it feels like to, in a phrase, kill one of your own babies. To sunset or quietly shut down something that you had high hopes for, something that you thought might be monetarily rewarding or emotionally rewarding or, socially rewarding or some combination of those, but it just didn't quite work out. And this happens all the time. I mean, tech companies will do things as an experiment to see if they'll work. And if it's not doing well, they'll shut it down. A couple years ago, Google tried to add to the number of media channels the opportunities for people to advertise. So they had banner ads and they had video ads and they had all kinds. What they decided to do was to branch into traditional media like radio and television, and they had the ability to produce radio spots on the fly. I was one of the producers. Television spots on the fly, newspaper ads. And it's funny because for them, they shut it down because it wasn't making enough money. I think in the first year they had the Google Ad Creation Marketplace, they only made $22 million. And so it wasn't valuable enough for them to keep going. And I don't think they really, mourned the loss of that. They tried, they saw, see if it worked. It didn't work for them. Maybe they'll try it again in the future. Who knows? So it happens all the time, but that doesn't make it any easier to handle if it's you that has to stop doing something. You decide to quit a job or you decide to jump off the board of your homeowners association because it's just not something you want to do anymore. Or you try to create an invention and it just doesn't work out and you have to kind of give up on it. This happened to me about a week ago, a little over a week ago. I had to make the decision to shut down something that I thought was going to be very helpful. I learned a lot from it, so there was value to doing it. It was the Believe Journeyers group. We had done a 21-day live every day at 10 o'clock in the morning video on how to take limiting beliefs. We would do a video conference online via Zoom on how to take limiting beliefs that hold us back as performers and figure out where they came from, what their meaning was, why it rewarded us to have those beliefs, and then to replace them with more enabling beliefs that better served us. And we did that for 21 days straight. And a lot of people got a lot of really great use out of it. And I thought, well, maybe what we'll do is we'll create a group to continue this process, to talk, maybe meet once a month, talk about the struggles that you have with limiting beliefs and help each other get in a better place. And it turned out that the engagement just wasn't there. I created a similar situation for all the other things that I offer. And it turned out that some people were very highly engaged, but most people were not. And I realized one of the things I learned from it is that, unlike how to audition better or how to do better technical work or how to do better performance work, which comes up on a regular basis, limiting beliefs and that ilk, that kind of like hard to deal with emotional and personal struggle, doesn't come up on a regular basis. It comes up every so often, and you kind of have to be there to help or have someone reach out for it. So it wasn't predictable in terms of a period, like every month we could talk about things. And I think it's also hard for people to talk about things like that. It's hard to declare, okay, I'm going to be a part of a group where on a regular basis I tell everybody about how I'm not good enough or how I feel that isn't working right for me and how I want to fix it. So I get that. And what I learned from the process, maybe it wasn't something that would be an ongoing group, but what I learned from the process was that I need to add a fourth tenet to the art, commerce, and science that I teach. I teach the art of voiceover, the commerce of voiceover, the building of the business of voiceover, and the science, the technology. And what I need to add to that is the mindset, how we set ourselves up for failure and success. These videos are very much a part of that. And so even though I felt that it was time to shut it down in terms of a regular, ongoing, and for pay for the people that were involved, product that I had, oh my gosh, did I learn a lot about what I'm going to institute in the VO to Go and the ACX Masterclass and the Rehearsal Pro and all the other things that I'm doing in terms of mindset. And so it was a great learning experience. I got a tremendous amount of benefit that way. But to be fair, it was a sad time for me because, here I thought, well, I'll build this big group and it'll be awesome and we'll all help each other and I'll administer it and I'll take a small fee for that. And it just didn't work out. And so when that happens, one of the pitfalls that you can fall into is to just go, nah, let me just give it a little bit more time and let's see what happens. And you can do that if you want to. But at some point, you have to kind of analyze, what's worked about this, what hasn't worked about this. Is it worth continuing? Are there other things that I might be doing? Is there an opportunity cost that I'm paying by doing this as opposed to something else? Or helping something that is successful for me be even better? And when this happens, you have a responsibility to the people that are involved. A couple dozen people put their faith and their money in my care for doing this. And so you have to be fair with them and say, look, this isn't working out. I'm sure some of you feel the same way because you're not as involved in this as you'd like to be or that I'd like you to be. Not blaming them because it's kind of my responsibility to make sure everybody's humming along and doing really well. But then I thought to myself, part of that is making sure that people have problems to deal with. And, I can't control that. So you have to be fair. You have to tell people what you're doing, why you're doing it. Don't just slink off, go off into the universe. Face people that you meant to serve and you tried to serve and tell them why serving them ongoing isn't going to work. And you have to make sure the money's taken care of. If people have paid things, you have to refund that. In my case, there weren't any outstanding payments. So that was easy, but then you have to meet with them and say, hey, this is what I've decided. I want to thank you. We tried, it just didn't quite work out. And then, move on. I'm actually leaving the private group that I created for them open so they can continue to talk to each other if they want to. We're just not going to do the monthly meetings. There's not going to be any fee, that kind of stuff. And this happens often enough in technology in particular. Certainly, there have been plenty of companies who've come out with products that have failed miserably. And there have been companies that have come out and figured they were going to change the world, and they entirely have failed considerably. TechCrunch has an ongoing chronicle of companies that have failed, companies that have had failed products. They call it their Deadpool. And a friend of mine, Pud, Phil Kaplan, used to run a site called effedcompany.com. I used to have him on the radio show all the time. And he kind of, made fun of companies that had really big claims of they're going to change the world and didn't quite do it. So, I'm not asking for Schadenfreude. I'm not asking for you to be happy about somebody else's pain. But be aware that sometimes people put themselves out there and it doesn't quite work out. And we sometimes put ourselves out there and it doesn't quite work out, and you have to kind of deal with that. So both from a producer standpoint and a consumer standpoint, I guess my advice is to understand what bravery it takes. You probably know this, what bravery it takes to actually say, I'm going to try and do something. And then what bravery it takes to say, yeah, it's not working out. I have to shut this down. And as a consumer, it can be very frustrating. As a consumer, it can be like, oh, that didn't work out. Oh, interesting. So I guess what my exhortation is when these sorts of things happen, be aware that the cleanup isn't always pretty. It can be if you're open with either your customers or with the business that is shutting down. It's a lot of loose ends. It's a lot of tough things and a lot of frayed emotions sometimes. Certainly there are people who really are emotionally invested in the success of their stuff. And it can be really difficult for them. In this case, this was more difficult for me than other things that I tried. Well, it didn't work. I really feel for the people that were involved in the Believe Journeyers group. I got to know them really well. I got to know some of their innermost demons and struggles, and I felt a great sense of joy and satisfaction when somebody would say, "Oh my God, this has helped so much." So that's something that I very much profited from, and I really appreciate that. Tell me about your struggles with things that you've tried to do, you've given it your best, but at some point you decided to shut it down. What made you make that decision? Is there anything that you're still doing that you'd like to figure out how to shut down, but you don't quite know how? Let me know both of those things in the comments below, and anything else about this subject that might be interesting to you. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, that's something I promise I am not going to, if I can at all help it stop before the end of the year. Go ahead and click on my head over there. If there's no head, there's a subscribe button somewhere on the page. Go ahead and grab that. If you want to see the latest video I've done, click on that frame there, because they'll play the last video I uploaded for you. I'm David H. Lawrence the 17th, and I so appreciate you watching these videos, and I will talk to you tomorrow.